as they come. If you're here live, or if you're watching or listening to this replay, what that tells me about you is you are that kind of CEO, right? Who's been doing that deep identity work, right? Because that's where we want to start, right? You're that CEO who wants to grow, but knows she can't do it on her own, who wants to faithfully steward the time that God has given her, who knows that her business is a mission from God, like we talked about today, who believes that she has multiple callings, right? Look at our wheel here with all the different things on here, right? And when someone who knows that she's not arrived and never will, right? I don't know about you, but I always have room to grow. I always have things that God is doing. I always want to be open to that. And you're probably here because you also are here to admit and say, I only have 24 hours in a day to do all this stuff, right? And I want to see an ROI in my time. So if that's you, say me in the chat so I know that you are in the right place and that you're here. And again, like I talked about the other day, you may be the CEO who feels like time is totally out of control and you're drowning, swimming around Never Enough Island. Or maybe you're the CEO that everything looks under control. You're juggling a lot of balls and not dropping too many, at least if you can help it, right? That was me for a really long time, but it was exhausting trying to manage it all. And maybe your business is like, in that first case, your business is probably stale or like almost like non-existent, right? And maybe if you're the one who's got things under control, your business is stable, or maybe it's slowly scaling, but like you're like, this is a lot of work and a lot of time, and I don't know about this, right? And maybe, and hopefully, you're the CEO who's ready to let go of control, like who's ready to stop just doing everything on her own, and who is ready to say, okay, I want my business to be substantial, and I want it to be so out of my control, it can only be God. Like when I shared with you guys yesterday where I was a year ago and how that just triggered that reminder when I heard my coach talking about it on her challenge this week, I was like, but God, but God, like I can't say this is anything to do with Lissa, right? This is just me taking the time to refill and then pour out and to be faithful with the message and the mission and the time that God has given me. And so I pray that that is your prayer as well. And so I'm excited that you are here, no matter where you find yourself right now with your time or your business. You're here because you want to see an ever increasing ROI on the time that you put in, right? We want to simplify and streamline, right? Who wants to do that? We talked about simplifying our heart today. We want to simplify and streamline all the things we do for our business, because what does that do? It frees up more time so that we can do other things, right? And bandwidth. Like, talk about the mental load that so many of us carry all the time because we're holding it all up here, right? And that really starts weighing us down, right? So we want to be committed to our business and consistently show up no matter what season of the year it is. We're not making excuses, right? Because we know it's really not about the time. It's really not about the season of the year. It's really not about these external things. What's it really about? Right here, right? So this is not for you, and you're welcome to either, leave or whatever. If you feel like you already have all your ducks in a row and they never get out of line and nothing unexpected ever happens, and when they do get out of line, you're like, doesn't even ruffle my feathers, right? You never get distracted and it's just like, oh, yep. Or if you like the idea of having a business, but you're not committed to showing up, which I don't think you'd be here if you were doing that, because this is extra time on top of what we've already done, right? And if you just are like, yeah, I love just putting in all this time and kind of just feel like I'm checking boxes and not seeing a whole lot, then this probably isn't for you, right? Because we're not going to find what we're looking for and praying for in conventional time management, just better organizing our calendar, better organizing our planner and our checklists and our work blocks and things like that. And I hope that you've seen this week, and I hope this is why you're here, because you're like, Lissa's doing things different. This is not what I'm hearing out there on the internet. This is not what I'm hearing on other podcasts. This is different, because it's starting with who you're believing, who I'm believing that we are as a CEO, right? As a Christ empowered operator. And that starts in our heart. And chances are, if you're here, then just getting better at managing time, even like we talked about earlier, right? I love, Lori, how you shared this. Even getting better at stewarding time is really not the solution, right? And so then we're just doing things like the rest of the world, just trying to make up for that gap between where we are and where we think we should be or where we want to be. And that's really, really exhausting. So this is for you if you know that God has called you to something more, and stewarding your time, you're starting to see like, yep, that's the way to do it. And okay, how does this tie into some of the logistics of my business and things like that? So that's what we're here for. So if you're like, Lissa, let's get on with it. My time is short and I want to know what you're talking about, then we are going to dive in. And tomorrow, we're going to dive deeper in the session tomorrow about what it means to show up as a CEO who makes an impact. And we're talking about the difference between being an influencer and being an impactor, and the belief that goes along with it. So right now, I guess Matt List was gone. The identity, remember, was the bottom one down here. we're going to focus on some of those top ones here for a few minutes. Okay. Because I know you've done some of the identity work. So now we can start getting into some of those things. And I just want to let you know, as I sat down with the Lord and I thought about you, the CEO who wants to be faithful and fruitful, right? The CEO who wants to see an even bigger ROI on her time and her business. He showed me that after we do this work on rightly ordering our heart, which will always be the foundation of everything we do, because that's where the shifts start happening in our beliefs and how we approach our time and then what we do with it. We need 4 CEOs essential in place. Okay. So essentially, by my eraser, the CEO impact bonus is the fast track to get the 4 things I'm about to show you guys before anybody else sees this, that need to be in place. Okay. I'm going to take out this. Well, I'll take out both of us. We have room to write. Okay, so there are 4 things. I'm going to give you all 4 things and we'll go back and talk about them. Okay. The first one that you need to have in place if you want to see an increase in your impact and your income are your CEO work blocks. Yeah, let that person in who just came in here. Okay, we'll talk about what that means in just a second. The second thing you're going to need to have in place are your CEO workflows. Whoa, ladies are flocking in. I'm gonna cry right now because I've been praying for this, so wouldn't God do it, right? The third thing is your CEO growth plans. For those who are just coming in, these are the 4 essentials, and you can go back and listen to the replay to catch what I shared in the first few minutes, but these are the 4 essentials that if you really want to grow the impact and the income in your business, we need these 4 things in place. Okay, so I'm just listing them right now, and then we're gonna go back as to what they are. Okay, so CEO work blocks, CEO workflows, CEO growth plans, and CEO daily meetings. Run out of space there. Okay, so those are the 4 things. Okay, let's go up and kind of talk through what these look like and how the way that we do this inside the CEO framework is different. And again, what I'm offering you guys, and I'm going to kind of show you what it is, and then we'll talk about how it ties in, is kind of a fast jump start to do all of these things. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to waste, right? It is right now almost the month of September, right? Which means we're coming up to 4th quarter, right? There is still a lot of time left in this year. What would you love to see happen in your business in this last part of the year? And not even necessarily waiting till 4th quarter, although this kind of perfectly times well with that. And I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so first one is the CEO work blocks. I probably don't need to tell you a lot about this. We talked about this on day 2. You need to know and decide, I call these making CEO decisions, because a CEO decision is one where you decide and you commit and you take action. So there's 3 parts. What's the decision? Have I committed to it? And then how am I taking action on it? Okay, so the first thing that we are doing is making a CEO decision about our work blocks. How much time are you giving to your business? Now, remember, work takes the time we give it. So it could take 60 hours a week, but are you giving it that much time? Right? Like, how much time are you committed to giving it? And that goes for those of us who work too much and those of us who sometimes don't find the time, as much time as we say we want. And when are you giving it that time? And one of the things that I'm going to help you do as part of the CEO impact bonus is to build out that ideal week template that I told you about, right? Using that refills and pour outs method, we're going to build out an ideal week template. Notice I said ideal. Did I say perfect? No. Anyone ever have a perfect week? Anyone ever have a week that 100% goes according to plan? Never, right? But guess what? When we leave it up to chance, how does that usually work? Like, maybe you have a little bit that happens that you wanted to, but most of it's going to be reacting all day long. That's what I call living by default versus living by design. Okay. As a CEO, if you were to go work for somebody, right? Like some of you do work for somebody still, right? You go punch a clock, either figurative or literally, right? And this is the time I clock in, this is the time I clock out, and then I'm responsible for that time in between, right? So for those of you who have an online business or you're the boss or whatever, like we have to have that time that we are committed to. This is not time to be doing all these other random things. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't perks to working from home, that you can do some, other things when you want to, but not to the point that it's a distraction. Okay. So that's that first one, which I feel like we don't have to talk a whole lot about because we've been covered that. Okay. The second essential is CEO workflows. So you can have this really beautifully laid out week, and you can have those business hours posted on your store, on your door, right? But even if you own a brick and mortar, if you show up to work when that's open and you just sit there, is it going to grow your business? Or if you just randomly start doing a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this, right? And whatever kind of pops in your brain, right? We're going to end up like just wasting that time that we're at work and then probably being frustrated, or maybe trying to take that time then away from other things in our day and our week and our weekend to try to, get back to where we want to be. Who has ever sat down to work and wasted too much time figuring out what to do? Or where you last left off. Or if I do, okay, I'm do a little bit of this. Oh, that's right, I got to do this. And then you go to scroll over here and then you like, oh yeah, I need to remember that. And then it's like, we're like bouncing all over the place. Okay. If I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I'm going to be productive. Been there, done that, wasted time, didn't grow. Okay. So what I'm going to do with those of you who come into the CEO Impact Bonus is not only are we going to get clear on when are you working, we're going to get clear on what are the primary workflows when you sit down to work. And I'm actually going to give you templates so that you will have, not only when I sit down, I know exactly what I'm doing today, but it's all in one place. And in such a way that you don't have to have a bazillion tabs open at the top of your computer. How many tabs do you have open right now because you have to get back to that thing? You're still in the middle of that thing. You don't want to forget that thing or lose that thing or whatever. We waste so much time reinventing the wheel, right? And going back and trying to figure all those things out. So how good would it feel to not have to keep it in our head anymore and hope we remember? Anybody with me? To not have Post-it notes. Sometimes I do. These are some of those little thoughts that God gave me this morning that I like grabbed the closest thing and I jotted down. That's okay, but guess what? It went in someplace else as soon as I got in my office, right? Or the random notebooks, and the random things all over the place. We're going to put all in one place and listen to this. We are going to get rid of 90% of your to-do list. Maybe even more. Because here's what I truly believe, especially during our business time, and I think this actually applies to everything in our life. 90% of the things we do are on repeat. You send the email every week, right? You post the podcast, you post the social, you follow up with the clients, you fill in the blank with whatever the tasks are that you do, right? So I teach you how to have a system so that it doesn't all have to live up here or in scribbled notes everywhere or trying to, keep up with it all, so that it is already right there and waiting for you and it doesn't live on a to-do list. Yes, I sometimes have like 2 or 3 random things on a to-do list because it's literally one of those things, like it's what I call a one and done. Like I just have to do this once and then it's off my plate. But if it's anything that's going to happen with any regularity, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, seasonally, or annually, I'm going to show you how to have a system so that you don't have to try to remember it. Can I just tell you how much time this has saved me and how much stress this has saved me? And Maria's like, that would be amazing, right? Gone are to-do lists. We're not living by to-do lists. Whoever gets to the end of their to-do list anyway, right? We end up making lists of our to-do lists and then we like forgot it or we run out of room on the bottom. And what do we do with to-do lists? We end up starting at the top. Is that the most important thing just because you thought of it first or it went on the list first? No. Okay. All right. The third thing are CEO growth plans. So I don't know about you, but for a long time, I was checking a lot of the daily boxes that I needed to do. Yes, I was wasting time because I didn't have the automated workflows that I'm going to show you, and then I was setting these goals for my business, but not only did I not have the time to work on them because I was spending all my time on the daily stuff, I also didn't know how to break down those bigger projects, a to-be list. Oh, I like that. Yes, because we're all about being, right? I didn't know how to break down like yes, I want to reach, this amount of income, or yes, I want to complete this project, or yes, it just kind of became one more thing at the beginning of the year that I put out there. And then, really didn't feel like I was making a whole lot of traction. So this has been really cool. And I can't even tell you how much this has changed my business. As part of the CEO Impact Bonus, we are going to change all that. And we build out what are called 12-week plans. So it's the concept of, instead of giving yourself an entire year, we break it down into a chunk that we can do in 12 weeks. And here's the beauty of it. Most people, what happens when you set a 12-month goal? Maybe you get started right away and then you kind of dabble and then life happens and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I should do that again. And then life happens and then it's like the end of the year and then you're like scrambling, right? Think about like a typical salesperson. They get more sold in the last couple of days of the month than they do the entire month because they're trying to hit that finish line, right? So essentially, we're not putting pressure on ourselves. In fact, this has actually freed me up because who was it that said earlier? I know some of you have said this. I have too many projects on my plate. Who has too many different things you're trying to work on, right? And it's hard to get to them all, or you don't feel like they're really getting the traction. So we're going to go, okay, what's the one main thing? Sometimes I let you have two, but that's under like extenuating circumstances that you and I pinky promise some things and it's not going to distract, right? But like, here's what's getting my time and focus. The only way that this thing is now sitting in my hands is because I had a 12-week plan. And because I was able to take a bazillion steps to make this happen and map them out over that period of time. And so that's one of the things I'm going to do. And here's where I'm telling you, this lines up with fourth quarter, even though it doesn't matter what the calendar says. In the month of September, we're going to build these things out so that by the time fourth quarter starts, you've got 12 weeks to execute and complete that plan, regardless of the fact that it is going to finish right at the holidays. It doesn't matter, right? We've already talked about the fact that we don't magically get more time just because it's the other side of the holidays, right? So think about, what is that project? What is that focus? What is that thing that I keep wanting to find time for? I keep saying I should make time for. I keep starting, but then I get so overwhelmed because there's so many steps to it, I don't know what to do next. Like, that's what we can say, we're going to get to the end of that, right? So my last 12-week plan was getting this thing together. The next one is getting it launched, right? And that's exactly what I'm working on right now as I do that. So what is it for you? And what can we do to move that forward? Now, the last one is not necessarily last here because it's least important, but it's actually the one that ties everything else together. Here's where the identity stuff comes back in, right? Because if you're like me, for a long time, it was like my time with the Lord was happening, but it was more of a check the box. And it was like, okay, well, now that's done. And now I go on to my business. So I'm going to teach you my format for the CEO daily meetings with your chairman of the board. Who's your chairman of the board? God, right? You're the CEO. He's the chairman of the board. Guess what? If you know how corporations work, the CEO can't do stuff without the chairman of the board. It's not like, oh, I'm off and running on my own, right? And so that's why it's this beautiful partnership. And the chairman of the board has a lot, like is the one who directs what the CEO is doing. And so we are going to work on how do we actually do that. And I'm going to give you my template for that and help you to really build that out such that when you spend that time every day, right now, you're going to find you have so much more direction in those other three areas. Okay, I want you to think about it. Imagine having these 4 essentials rock solid in your business. Would that make a difference in the ROI of your time that you're putting in there? So that when you sit down, you know exactly what to do and you're not wasting time trying to figure out where you left off or what to do next, or a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then kind of all over the place and just hoping for the best. And then, okay, well, next year, right? Like, I am super committed to helping women right now say, today is the day to start, not next week, not next month, not next year, right? Not Monday, like we always like to say. Like, God has called me to this, and how can I partner with him from this place of, I am a CEO and I'm a steward of this. Now, I'm just going to say, I know how to do it the other way because I'm a scrappy DIY girl who would go to the challenge, take all the notes, and I would actually do the work. I'm one of those unicorns who actually would show up and do something with it. But I kept hitting the same ceiling in my business growth and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. Right? When I was there, it sounded right, and like it's going to work or whatever. And then it's like, I kept trying to duct tape it together. And what I found out was I was missing that my faith wasn't factored into it. Because even if these experts called themselves Christians, it still felt the same as like all the time management stuff out there because they weren't coming at it with that different heart. And I still had the same thoughts and feelings and doubts and yeah, buts and if onlys, right? And I really didn't have that personalized support. I really didn't have, like I have all this information, but like, how do I actually do something with this? And even if I was part of a program that had that, there were so many people in the room and there were so many like other things that, they were trying to do that it was like, okay, what does this look like? Okay, now I did this part. What about this? And I have to wait like 2 weeks to like ask the next question. And I was like, oh, and I don't know about you, but I was not looking for a quick fix. I wanted something that was going to get down to the root of the problem. And that was going to help me then to build that foundation that was important and that was going to help me be sustainable and scale. So as I put together the CEO Impact Bonus, and I really spent some time praying over this over the past month, I had you and me in mind. And I thought, what does she need? She wants to give her time to what matters in both her life and business, right? And she wants to see an ROI on the time that she puts into her business, not just because it matters, in this life, but because other things in her life matter too, right? Who does not want to be working all the time and not thinking about work all the time? Okay. Guilty. You may not be in front of your computer, but girl, I see you. You're thinking about it. Yeah. That was me too. And I can't say that I don't ever think about it. And sometimes God gives me the best ideas when I'm not in front of my computer, right? So that's amazing, right? So real quick, I want to share this with you because I'm like, where is this found in scripture? I always wanted to make sure that we're going there and not just making this our great idea. Okay. You've probably read this before. You've probably heard of this example before, but I don't know if you've ever tied it into business. Proverbs 31, 13 through 31. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant, bringing her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her products are profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the day to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. I love this part. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands and let her works praise her in the gates. Right? I don't know if you guys noticed, number one, all 8 areas of attention are in her life. And inside of my program, we go through her life and pull out all 8. Oh, I erased them. All 8 that were on that wheel before. Okay. But also these 4 things are in there. She had time when she went out and did business and time when she did stuff at home. She had a process for how she did her business. She considered, then decided, then bought, then planted, then harvested, then reinvested, right? She had a process. She had a flow of that. She had growth plans because she had looked ahead and prepared for the days to come. And how was she able to do all this? I know so many of us look at her and be like, there's no way, that's not possible, right? We always, and I'll get more into that inside when we have more time to talk about it. But what was it that allowed her to do this? It's what we hear at the very end. She was a woman who what? Feared the Lord, right? She knew who her chairman of the board was. She was taking ownership of the responsibilities and the businesses. If you read through there were multiple businesses that she talked about. But she knew that it all came from the Lord and it was all for him, right? And what was the fruit of that? At the very end, it says, let the fruit of her hands and her works praise her in the gates. And here's what I always say. Her husband and her kids, whether or not you have husband and kids or not, would not be saying these things about her if she was the cranky mom who was always ignoring them just to do her business, right? Or who was always multitasking, saying, you're in the way and I got to get this done and whatever, right? Like they wouldn't be telling other people. They'd be like, oh, right? And I have to honestly say that was what my family said about me for a while. Because I was really I just have to make this happen, right? But what was the result? She increased her impact. Who did it impact? Her family, her friends, her maidservants, the poor, and the other people that were in town that were hearing about her, right? And she also increased her impact. What did she do? She sold things. She invested in things. She made things. And I love verse 18. Her business and products were profitable, right? So yes, if we don't just want to be checking boxes and feel like we're a robot and just doing the do and not seeing the results, then this is the kind of pattern we want to follow after. And these are the things that we want to have in place. And so that's why I put together the CEO Impact Bonus, because this is what's going to change things for you, especially for those of you who you're like, Lissa, I've got time blocks already. I've got an organized, my time is organized, right? But maybe you're not seeing the level of growth in your business that you want to, that ROI that you want to. So when we get these 4 essentials in place and couple that with a high level of accountability, we said this the other day, who knows they need accountability, right? Who does better when you're showing up for, somebody else and that somebody's going to ask about how these things are going, and not in any shaming way or you should have, woulda, coulda, or anything like that. Like I always say, no shame, no judgment, no stories, but in a way of I said this mattered and I'm giving you permission to call me out if I'm not protecting that, if I'm not doing that, right? But you also have permission to call me out if I start getting more into productivity than purposivity, if I start getting more into managing instead of stewarding, if I start getting more into this is building my business and my kingdom versus God's glory and his kingdom, right? And so that's what this is all about. And tomorrow I'm going to share more details about the self-paced course that's inside there and the group and individualized coaching and the private community and stuff like that. But I just want to end our time together with what's the value of this, right? So let me ask you a couple questions. Like, how much would it be worth to you to take an inventory of your time and your tasks? Not only in business, yes, we're going to focus in on business, but we also deal with the stuff out here. Because what happens is if this stuff out here is way out of control, you're not going to have the time or the focus to be able to do your business, right? So what if you were able to inventory your time and your tasks and have a step-by-step process with clarity about exactly what to give your time to and where to find the time to make it all fit without chasing a clock and calendar? What would that be worth to you? How much would that help you to be able to grow? And how much would it be worth for you to structure your business tasks so that you are simplified and streamlined and not trying to be on every platform and do everything and reduce 90% of that to-do list that you keep trying to check off or find where you put, right? And stop dropping all the balls because you have a system to keep it top of mind without losing your mind. This is me. I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot that again, right? How much would it be worth to you to dream those big with God dreams, I call them, for your business, and then set goals that you can actually reach and have a template to create this step-by-step plan with steps that aren't so overwhelming that you go, well, so much for that, because it breaks those big, scary dreams, right? God-sized dreams are bigger than me. I don't know how this is going to happen. It breaks those big things down into my monthly and my weekly and my daily I can do's with God without getting sidetracked or losing sight of the goal or off in the ditch, right? Somewhere along the way, right? And how much would it be worth to you to know that not only are you called to this business, but you have access to the God who owns it all, who's giving you the time, the wisdom, the connections, the ideas, the faith to build out what he's called you to without carrying it all on your own shoulders, trying to figure out on your own, right? And feeling buried under all of the should-dos, right? Like having these things in place and then having a high level of support is going to make all the difference. Now, what does that come down to like tangibly? Well, that's going to be different for each one of you what that value is. So I'm going to invite you to grab a piece of paper right now, and I'm going to give you a little math problem. Watch out. I told you guys I was a math teacher back in the day. So here comes my math teacher out, okay? So right now, let's pretend it's September 1st because that's this weekend, okay? How many clients or customers do you desire to serve between now and the end of the year? Now, some of my clients currently, I have one gal who owns a coffee shop. So, I mean, that her number is going to be thousands, right? I have some people in my program who are doing a coaching program that's it costs thousands. So they're going to have a small number. So it's not about, my number is bigger than yours or whatever. This is between you and God. And I want to challenge you. When you look at that number right now, is that a with God number? Or is that this is what I think? Right? How often do we hold back because we're like, well, let's see, this is what it's been so far. And how many months left? And okay, well, maybe, right? Like, what are you trusting and believing that God can do? So write down that number between you and the Lord, right? You're welcome to share with me later if you want to, but right now between you and the Lord, okay? Second part of the formula is how much is each of those clients or customers going to be investing with you? Now, if I had that coffee shop, it's, average $4.35 per cup of coffee. I don't know what she charges. She lives in California, so coffee is probably really expensive there. But, so how much are they investing in you, right? So if this is someone hiring you as a VA, if this is someone who's hiring you as a coach, if this is someone who is, maybe you have a product. Like I know one gal who's on here just is launching a journal, right? So you think about like how many of those journals do I want to sell and how much is each one? And then take those two numbers and multiply them. Okay. So for example, if you had 10 clients and they're paying you $1,000 for your coaching services, that's $10,000. Or if you had 20 clients at 500, that's 10,000, or 50 clients at 200, it's, 10,000. But yeah. And then like, what am I leaving space for God to work in here? Right. That is the value of this CEO impact bonus alone. Right. And when you come in and say, yeah, Lisa, I want to do this, like, let's get these in place. I want your support. I want your eyes in my stuff. Right? I want that personalized coaching feedback. I want the group interaction. I want all of these things. Then we're going to start moving towards that number. Now, can I guarantee that you're going to hit that number that's right in front of you? No one can, right? But first of all, number one, with God, what if it's double that, right? Like, what if it's exceedingly beyond what you could ask or imagine, right? To him be the glory. That's what I'm going to say, right? I can't wait to celebrate that. And even if it's not fully that, what's the value in who you're becoming as you really lean into who he's made you as a CEO and what he's called you to do and the value behind that and the lives that you get to change, whether it feels like it's a big deal or not, right? Like that is huge. So for you guys get my first access, okay? I don't open this up to 100 people because I don't personally have time to serve 100 people at the level I want to. Okay. And I do have boundaries on my time. And after a certain time, I'm done. And so outside of, an emergency or I'm making an exception, I need to make sure that I am careful with where my time is going. So I'm only opening this up to a certain number of people, and that those spots may fill today before I even talk about it tomorrow with everyone else. And so we'll see about that. But what I want you to know is that this bonus, we're going to spend the month of September, perfect timing. September starts this weekend, right? So right after the holiday weekend, we are jumping in. We're looking at where your time and your tasks. We're starting to build out those work blocks and get them really solid. We're starting to build out those workflows. We're building out that 12-week plan. We're getting really committed to that meeting with the Lord. And we don't have to wait till fourth quarter starts, right, to get that stuff going. And you're also going to have access to all the other stuff in the program, which is going to kind of take you through the With God framework process I talked about with the wheel. It's going to take you through a lot of other things with your way you do your time, how you handle distractions, how you continue growing, a lot of different things like that. We have a book club that meets every other week. We have coaching calls. We have co-working. I'll talk about some more of those logistical things tomorrow. But this bonus is what's kind of going to give you that jump start. Right? It's what's going to give, I'm pulling out of that program the things that I really believe that you as a CEO who really wants to see the growth happen and not wait months from now is going to be able to start making happen. Okay. So I know the question is, okay, what's the price, Alyssa? Because that's what we always want to know. So I hope I built the value for you, right? On what that's going to be, right? Through September 3rd. Okay. So I'm going to give you through the weekend and then Tuesday, because I get that some of you may have plans. You can get into the CEO program, which includes this bonus stuff that we're doing in September and then through the end of the year, plus that full curriculum and all of those resources for an entire year for $49.97 paid in full. That includes a 20% discount. Okay. Because some of you, I know, like when I invested with my coach, I was like, I'm paying up front and I'm just going to be done with it. I do also have an option to spread it out over 12 monthly payments of $497. Okay. Now, when you take that investment and compare it to what your number is, I'm pretty sure if you're believing with God, that God is going to bring in more than what you've just invested, right? And then you're going to have these tools and the support and this new belief in all of that we're building over an entire 12 months together. And here's the thing. This is not like, okay, this is one more thing I'm doing on top of everything else I'm doing. Guess what? This is how you're doing everything else. Guess what? This is how you're going to say no to some things that you're currently doing right now that are taking time and money and energy and attention and bandwidth away from these other things that really matter and that you want to grow, right? So look at this as a way to do the things that you are doing, right? And I mentioned this earlier. It's kind of hidden behind here, and I've got something else that's behind there, but I keep this out because I have partnered with an organization in Central Asia that helps support women building the business. And so I actually posted on Facebook the other day because one of my CEOs owns a local boutique here in the town that I live. And right now she is displaying these handmade bags these women have made. 100% of the donations from those bags goes to them. And I have committed that 10% of every dollar that comes in to redeem her time goes directly to these women. It helps pay their salaries. It helps pay for their supplies. And get this, it opens up doors for the missionary workers who are there to go into their homes and have conversations with them about Jesus. Because right now they just think that he's a great prophet, which is what a lot of the world thinks, especially in a Muslim culture. And I can cry just thinking about like picturing these faces of these women and the people that I know that are going in there. And they're like, because we're helping them with this business, we have a way to go and sit with them in their houses and have these conversations. I just want you to know that, yeah, maybe you've never invested in yourself at this level, or maybe you have. I have some people tell me all the time, Lissa, that's nothing for 12 months. I'm like, I know it's not going to stay there. Just so you know, after the third, it's actually going up. But like your investment is investing in someone else, right? You're investing in who you are as a CEO and this life and business that God has called you to. And you are investing in these women that maybe you'll never meet. I am actually part of my vision because I've been back over there 4 times, is that one day I will be taking CEOs with me to go over and see see what life is like and meet some of these women and just have that, right, that bigger picture perspective on the world and on what God is doing and all of that. And so I don't know how and when that's going to happen. That's like a big with God dream that like, is out there, but so was me partnering with them a little over a year ago and saying, okay, I want to commit to doing this. So your investment goes into you and your business. It goes into them as well. So, all right. Well, I thank you guys for your time. I know that right now time is probably not your excuse because you've made time to be on the challenge and you've made time to be here, right? And probably if you find the value in things, you can find the money, right? Like we all do. Granted, I'm sure my husband could have found a different way to spend the money I invested with my coach, but because of the value there, right? We made it work. And so, I just want to encourage you, like, and maybe ask this question. And you are welcome to drop this in the chat or keep this between you and God or send me a private message. Like knowing what you know now about what this is, about how it will help you to not only steward your time, but also to increase your income and your impact, scale of 1 to 10. Like, how ready are you to invest in yourself and your business? If it's a 10, like, congratulations. I'm actually going to drop in the chat the checkout link because you've already applied. I do make people apply to be part of the program because it's not for everyone. Not everyone is willing and committed to give that kind of time and to do that kind of work. So if you are ready, redeemhertime.com/CEO-checkout. You literally can go right there, choose pay in full or choose the payment plan. You'll automatically be part of the bonus. And then I will send you stuff already this afternoon. And so you can start joining what's going on and be ready to go with us when we officially kick off the bonus next week. And here's what's so cool. I've had this sitting and waiting. I have this really cool sweatshirt that says, I'm the CEO. And this is going to go to the first person who, from this challenge, becomes one of my next CEOs. So that I've been praying over who's going to get this. And the first 5 people who come in, I have a limited edition Redeem Midlife CEO journal, which is a great place to keep all your ideas and your dreams and your prayers and the scriptures that God brings to you and the ahas and things like that. And so I've got 5 of these that are going to go out to those first 5 people who come in. But I hope the bigger value, right, is in what you're going to get, over 12 months and things like that. So if you were anything other than a 10, that's okay. I was too. As I shared with you guys yesterday, I didn't think it was the right time. I didn't think I had the money. And I didn't think I had a supported spouse. But you know what? Like, I took some time to pray. I talked to the coach that I'm now currently working with, and I just knew that there wasn't going to be a better time, and this is exactly what I need to do. So my question to you would just be, if you're anything other than 10, why do you say that? Right? And I would just lean into that. And I would love to have a conversation. A couple ways we can do that. On the challenge dashboard near the top is a button that says, leave me a message. That is a way for you to leave me, like, it's up to 90 seconds, I think. So you can do that. A lot of you have gotten texts from me this week if I have your phone number. So you've got mine now. Send me a message. Call me. Send me a voice message that way. Maybe you got an email from me. Send me an email. Like, you can message me through the group. Like, I would love just to know, like, where you are and why you say that and what you're looking at right now. And let me pray for you. And let's have a conversation about whether or not this could be what it is that you want to do. So for those of you who are on here live, do you have a question? I saw a hand that just went up a second ago. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I do want to give some time for anyone who's on here who's like, tell me more about this, or what about this? Or, because again, I'm kind of giving you a quick, trying not to take up too much of our time since we've been on for almost 30 minutes and I was trying to keep it around that time. What are your questions or what are your hesitations? That's a good thing to bring out too. And chances are somebody else is thinking the same thing or asking the same thing or saying what if in the same way. So you're welcome to pop off. If you don't have any, if you just want to go ahead and check out, that link is right there. Grab that. If you are, if you want to ask some questions now, that's great. If you want to reach out to me individually, that's great too. I want to be here to answer whatever it is that you need and help you make the best CEO decision because your time and your money and your attention is valuable. So. And some of you in here have worked with me before. So if anybody who's in here that's worked with me before or is currently working with me wants to give any here's what this did for me or whatever, you're always more than welcome to. All right. Well, I am here. If you want to chat, if you have questions, you want to talk more, but what about this? I would love to, but right, what comes after that? Let's talk about it. Let's see what God can do. Let's plant some seeds of faith, right? And see what it is that he wants to do. Because I'm not here to just, have more, coming in. Like I'm here to be able to help you guys do what it is you're called to. And I just get to be part of that process. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. And I pray that you'll give this some prayerful consideration. And I'll be praying for you. And I will see you tomorrow on day 4. We're going to talk about showing up as a CEO and believing it and living it and what it takes to do that. So I will see you guys soon. Thanks for being here.